I hate people that take advantage of followers like this.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what it does as well? It kind of makes me a bit angry because, like, I mean, like, I'm not going to get into a tirade now about media and what we're trying to do and what, you know, how there's money on the right and stuff. But you see some of those ones on the right, independent ones on the right, and they're just using people like that to get funding to continue on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to mention any names, but you guys can think of a couple and a couple of particular independent
here in the New Zealand space. Yes,
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The right wing thing is though that woman is an example of the kinds of people they need to get on board and continue that conversation for whatever their cult is to stay relevant and to stay to stay liquid. I mean, what we do on some level is a really stupid fucking business model. That's why we love you patrons so much. Because telling the truth and offering perspective and digging down more than one layer is not the kind of thing that a lot of people go, oh yeah, let's sponsor that. You know, talking about sticky, difficult things like what we just saw and actually going, let's try and work this fucking thing out. Is not the same. We're not riling people up on purpose. I mean, we do rile people up when we get passionate as well, but our model is not to make angry people because angry people are active people and are good to dip in their pocket. That's not our model. Those independent right-wing media, that's their model. Make angry people. Angry people give more money. That's not our model. Our model is let's figure this out together. Let's put this in the sunlight, you know, the best disinfectant. Let's see if we can figure this out together. And I think that's probably why you see all over the world, the right independent groups far better funded than the left.
I'm just going to highlight this comment before we move on to something else. Can the left be culty too? Absolutely,
yes,
because it's
100%.
it's not a left or right thing.
100%.
It can be weaponized left or right, but I don't think the vulnerability to being taken advantage of, to being programmed or put in that, like the mechanism is the same no matter what the belief is.
Yeah.
You know, make that person feel special, isolate them from everyone else. That can be done any side.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and have to let my wife in because we had to take the dog with no keys. So I will be back in 1 second.
See you soon. And I'll keep talking about the left thing. You know, I had that little sort of, and it might, look, when I come up with these little sort of, not even epiphanies, but ideas, they're not necessarily well formed. But I thought for a while, it seems to me like that sometimes those on the far right use like extreme facts with no empathy. And I think some on the far left sometimes use extreme empathy with no facts. Now, it's never one or the other 100% as I paint it, but talking about the culties on the left out, I mean anything. If you become ensconced in that world, if that world is all you have, if you're now living with that world and living with that opinion and in the echo chamber that you hear nothing else, yeah, you're in danger of being in a cult. One of the things I appreciated most about Chippy last week when he said, I think the question was from one of you guys, how do we make this a one-term government? And he said, talk to people who have differing opinions than you. And I thought that was pretty interesting advice from him. Because I think that's the way you don't get into a cultish echo chamber. I also think, and you can't see it in the video we just watched, but I've said this numerous times on the show. If someone, pardon me, what was that noise?
What noise?
No? If someone
you coughed, you got COVID.
If someone ever wants to sort of debate me and say, do you want to have this and this and that, one of the first questions I often ask them is, are you prepared to change your mind? Are you prepared to move in your position? And if they say no, I often go, thanks, I'm not really looking for an argument. It's all right. We'll leave it for today. And I think that's I've always wanted to do some of those on the street conversations where we actually ask people about not trying to actively change anyone, but going, what do you believe about subject X? You know, what would it take for you to move 5% of that position? What would it take, if anything? and see how many people out there are actually entrenched in our belief, whether it's left or right, or, you know, I don't even be entrenched in centricism, but, or it's the All Blacks are the best, or whatever, or basketball's the best sport, or Holden versus Ford, whatever your belief is, and how much are you entrenched with it versus how much would it take for you to not necessarily change altogether, but move from your entrenched position. I think it's a really interesting look at life.
Yeah, and
maybe one day.
I think when it comes to that, like, social media is something that has fundamentally changed how we approach these things. Because the algorithm will fuck any discussion up, because rage engagement is best engagement.
Yeah.
And the conversation is not the details in the middle, it's the extremes on the edges.
100%.
And so we can't have a realistic discussion on, let's say, an emotive conversation like abortion. You know, something that is very emotive will immediately go to, you're a monster baby murderer. And you're
what is it?
Handmaid's Tale. Yeah, Godwin's Law. How quick can we get to calling people a Nazi? Now, I want to be really clear. Don't like Nazis. Really want to reserve that term for actual Nazis.
Yeah, for sure.
Not someone of a lesser position. And I do believe that the vast majority, like when we talk about, you know, politicians making hay out of the trans issue, I think the vast majority of people just want to get through life without being shitty to the majority of people.
Yeah, don't be a dick, New Zealand.
But that does not get votes. That does not get engagement. So everything is being amplified.
Yeah.
And everybody, when we talk about the cults, you want to be part of the special group.
Yeah.
That algorithm will deliver you to the group. One of the great things about social media is it made our world smaller and it made it easier to find your community. Yeah. One of the worst things about social media is it meant that everyone could find a community.
Oh, I thought you were going to say exactly the same thing. It made the world smaller and we can get, it's exactly the same. No, best and worst.
Ultimately, yes. Yeah. Like, yes, it's great that I can find a group into the same fringe hobby that I'm into. It's not so great that the Nazi that thought his views were abhorrent and nobody shared them found the fucking Stormfront forum. None of it's good. We don't have an answer for it yet. And yes, like Chippy said, the antidote is talking about it.